Welcome back. And of course, my guest this afternoon is the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, Honorable Abena Asare. Now, the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament is pushing for stricter measures to help deal with increasing financial infractions captured in the Auditor General's report. Financial mismanagement among government institutions have seen a jump in the last year with non-debt recovery, rent and payroll fraud, leading to irregularities in the 2024 Auditor General's report. We'll look at the figures shortly, but first, here are highlights of the key issues that came up during the committee's sitting in the past week.
About non-payment of some government workers, especially teachers, due to non-validation came up at the Public Accounts Committee, where Chairperson Abena Asare raised concerns about how the phenomenon has become a bargaining or punishing tool for some superiors in the educational sector.
Sometimes it's a genuine mistake from the validators. And sometimes too, it is a way of some of the heads showing teachers where the power lies. And it's very, very painful. Since Friday, we've had a lot of these reports. It's very painful.
This is the Controller and Accountant General, Kwesi Eje's initial response.
Because they validate. They are in the district, they are in their offices, and they will determine that this amount of people deserve to be paid. So if for one reason or the other, they don't validate you, then it's the same process, it's the same validators and institutions that have to go through the process to validate you for us to pay you. We cannot, as controller, pay you if the validators haven't validated you. So these are some of the challenges that
when they bring.
It was on the back of this that the Deputy Finance Minister, Thomas Ampenyako, made a revelation that the staff at the Controller's office is currently under investigation over a similar incident.
There was one that went viral recently about someone who complained that I think a teacher also name was taken off the payroll. Somebody assisted him to get it on, and the person was demanding a lot of money from him. Because he did not pay, they went ahead and removed his name from the payroll. We have taken serious view of this, and it is being investigated. Fortunately, Controller knows the person in the Controller office who activated, who deactivated, but a lot more information needs to come out for us to know what really went on and for the appropriate punishment to be meted out. And so the Finance Minister takes serious views to some of these things, and he's asked that we have an in-depth investigation into it. We will apprise the general public of whatever the outcome is.
On the part of the Finance Ministry, they have been referred to the Attorney General for prosecution over procurement breaches. According to the Auditor General's report, the ministry awarded 3 separate contracts worth 1.3 million Ghana cedis to 2 hotels to provide services during the drawing of the 2024 budget without approval from the Public Procurement Authority. When Ghana Revenue Authority appeared before the committee, the ranking member, Samuel Atamels, asked that the authority furnish the committee with a full list of all debtors who owe millions of cedis in tax and how much has been collected so far. The GRA boss, Anthony Kwesi says they have collected a chunk of the debt and will explore every avenue to collect the rest.
On the whole, we assure the committee that we are taking strides and taking all the actions to recover all the amounts that taxpayers owe. And as you may witness from our engagement with the committee, we have done tremendous effort in terms of the report that we presented to them, achieving greater strides in recovering the taxes, and we also assure that the remaining amounts we continue to work with taxpayers and collect it ultimately to collect the revenue for national development and in support of the President's vision of resetting and building this nation.
Although the committee was originally scheduled to end this session on Wednesday, August 27, it has ended this Monday. Adjourning to September 29, it is unclear what the reason is. James Sabeji, Parliament House, Accra.
Right, and I'm delighted to say that we have the chairperson of the committee, Honorable Abena Asare, also the member of Parliament for Etiwa East in the Eastern Region. Honorable, you're welcome. It's been a while.
Yes. Thank you.
And am I right that you are the first female chairperson on this committee?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's some history there. But before you came on, I mean, just something I want to pick your minds on. I engaged some PhD students in the UK who are on government scholarship. And 15 of them, they've been marked for deportation. In fact, one is coming home today because of government indebtedness. Government is not paying the tuition fee. And for that reason, they've been given a lot of reminders. So as we speak, one is being sent home today, 15 are on the red list to be deported, hopefully, next week. That is, if nothing is done immediately to avert the situation. How is it so difficult for government to meet some of these obligations?
Good evening to your listeners. I cannot speak for government, but what I can say is that it's about our priorities. I know there are a lot of equally important things that we need to do with the revenues that we raise.
Right.
But once we commit to send our citizens out there on scholarship, and out there, things are not that easy.
Right.
And so...
some for 36 months have not been paid their stipends.
That's quite... and so I think government should do its best to squeeze whatever resources that they have and place some at the scholarship secretariat so that they can also pay what is due these beneficiaries.
Okay.
Because it will not be right for your education or your program to be cut short.
Right.
Because the government that accepted to give you that scholarship is refusing to pay. And so I believe it's something that we should speak to the finance minister about and see how best they can also support the scholarship secretariat to do the needful. This is something that we all must see how best we can support them to make sure they continue with their studies and come back home with the objective for which they went.
They went there, all right. Now, I don't know whether you've seen this Daniel Yaudemalevo's post on Facebook, for example. And let me just summarize what he says. He says, I vehemently disagree with the PAC chair, Honorable Abena Asare, when she chided the Ministry of Education accountant from Donkokrum. Instead of praising him, in my view, the accountant did the right thing. If I heard the exchange between the Honorable chair and the accountant correctly, the teacher in question validated his own records in order to unlawfully receive additional salary. All that the accountant did wrong was to put embargo on the teacher's salary in order to recover the unlawful payment. This action of the teacher may qualify for theft, fraud, embezzlement, misconduct, or corruption. And then he said that the teacher should be praised instead of the condemnation.
The accountant.
The accountant should be praised instead of the condemnation that he received before you.
Well, let me say that I welcome his academic opinion on this. But in all things, we should look at the practicality of it. This is a headmaster who validates and is expected to be validated. In the first place, the accountant failed to validate the headmaster.
Right.
Because it's like a check on the headmaster. So one, the accountant failed to check, to validate, even after the headmaster had validated himself, the accountant is also supposed to validate. That did not happen.
Right.
This infraction has been committed. The Auditor General comes and draws your attention to it and asks that we recover these monies from the teacher. One. Let's look at the practicality of it. That if you say you are going to put 100% charge on the person's income, in effect, what are you trying to say?
A zero.
Yes. At the end of the month, the person is not going to get anything. Meanwhile, the person is still at post, is a teacher. So how do you expect the person to make ends meet? And two, let me tell you this. There's a policy. It's a policy with our banks, policy with Controller and Accountant General that you cannot put a charge of more than 40% on someone's income.
Even if you are assessing a loan.
Even if you are assessing a loan, the banks have 40% for regular loans and 50% for mortgages.
Right.
And it's the same policy with the Controller and Accountant General. So in our quest to address an issue, I don't think we would want to come up with impractical ways of doing it. Whatever it is, the teacher must be made to pay. it has to be practical. So the accountant saying that, well, they are going to put 100% charge on, it is not practical.
It is not practical.
It's more like an academic work than, I mean, because, see, the teacher will have to go to work. The teacher will have to feed the family. We are not saying that what he's done is right. It's not right. But there are ways, practical ways. Now, it is our monies we want to recover. And so how do we do it? In recovering our money, I don't think we should bend backwards a policy that is already in place. So you cannot charge more than 40%. The controller, the accountant general has a policy like that. And even if you, for one reason, there's an overpayment, they take a part of your salary. A fraction of that is not whole. It's not 100%.
Right.
A fraction of that is a portion that they ought to take, not 100%.
Not 100%.
So what I asked the accountant to do was not to take 100%, because even when you do that, it's against the policies of the controller and accountant general. You take a part and not the full.
But again, yesterday I watched your banter with the controller on the matter of validation, and sometimes a name is taken off the payroll, and it takes sometimes months for them to do it. And you say that sometimes those who do the validation want to show people where power lies, and then they do some of these things.
Sometimes, like I said, they are genuine mistakes. They are genuine mistakes in there. The validator fails for one reason or the other, fails to validate you. And so, controller, in terms of payroll management, there are those who authorize controller to pay, and then from controller's side, those who effect the payments. So those authorizing and those effecting the payments must have a common ground. And that common ground is you giving them the adequate and proper records of the teachers so that they can pay. And so that if you fail to do that, they will not be paid. But sometimes, genuinely, the validators also tell you that, yes, this person's name was taken off. The person's name has been included. They show proof that we have sent this over and over to Controller and Accountant General, and then they refuse to do the needful. You heard the Deputy Finance Minister also confirming that one person was taken off the payroll, and a staff at Controller asked for some monies so that they placed the person back and were asking for monies for that work that they ought to do.
Right. And
when the person said no, they took the person's name off, and so they are going to investigate. These matters are real. These matters are real, and I feel that urgently the Ministry of Education, Ghana Education Service, and Controller must sit and find proper systems and processes in place to help reduce these things to the barest minimum.
Okay.
Because once they are at post, once they work, if for any reason a validator refuses to validate them, if for any reason their names do not appear, Controller will not be able to pay them.
Okay, we are looking at 2024 audited accounts, and our research team put together the infractions as captured in the Auditor's General's document that is before the Public Accounts Committee. And if we can just have that highlighted, so we can have a walkthrough. So this is what we have: the irregularities total: 2023 2.4, 2024 2.1, and so there's some kind of a decrease. And tax irregularities 2.6 billion. In 2023, 2024, it came down to 1.8 billion. That's 26.7% decrease. And there's also cash irregularities, 88.4 million in 2023 and 177.8 million Ghana cedis in 2024, at 101% upwards adjustment. There's also debt to loans, 22.5 in 2023, 2024, 188.7. That's quite a jump. Irregularities in debt and loans. So those are the figures. Payroll irregularities, 14.5 million in 2023, 57.8 million in 2024, 300% increment. So it doesn't look like, as a country, we are doing much in terms of protecting the public purse.
There's a lot that we have to do. When you look at the issue with payroll irregularities, it comes in three forms.
Right.
One is payment of allowances to the wrong people, payment of unearned salaries, and overpayment of salaries.
If you can take them one by one, how is it possible to pay allowance to somebody who is not deserving of it?
Well, there are instances where the Auditor General cited people. There are categories of allowances that are paid. There are responsibility allowances paid. There are fiscal disability allowances paid. And in one instance, someone who is not fiscally challenged, who is an able-bodied person, was being paid fiscal disability allowance.
But somebody put it in the system. I'm not sure.
Certainly. So that's what I'm saying. It is those who create, the authorize, and those who implement. We don't speak to each other. They don't speak to each other. So we must find a common ground where they can speak to each other. If everything is centered at the headquarters and you don't decentralize some of these things so that those who are closer to them will be in a better position to manage it, it gets difficult for you to manage such a thing. And also for overpayments. There are instances where they are placed in the wrong category.
Right.
They themselves, those who validate, place some of these teachers and officers in levels that they are not supposed to be there. We also had a couple of them in the Auditor General.
Is it deliberate or oversight?
That is what we have to investigate further. That is what we have to investigate further. In one instance, the person was placed on a technical university pay grade. The person was a teacher. So some of these things, it's right from the controller's side and the Ministry of Education or GES. That is why they need to collaborate more. And they need to find a common ground. And two, what I believe they should also do is that we need to hold validators responsible and sanction where we need to sanction them, the validators, because for them, they tell controller, go ahead, pay this person at this level with these responsibilities or with that. And so it is high time we also sanction validators who wrongfully
do some of these things.
Yes, do some of these things. And I believe it will go a long way to help us. And then the other thing, the unearned salaries, they come about.
Almost every Auditor General's report, we've seen it.
Yes.
Yes.
The unearned salaries come about when people vacate posts.
And they are still earning salary.
They are still being paid, or people die. So in one instance, the ranking member asked the accountant, so didn't you go for the person's funeral? And so why did you, why were you still validating? You kept validating this person. Meanwhile, you had gone for the person's funeral and knew the person was dead or had died. And so some of these things...
Isn't it relating to the bureaucracy in the system that it takes so long?
That is why I'm saying that
if
everything is done at the center, which is the headquarters, you have some of these challenges. We need to decentralize some of these processes and systems and let it be robust. Once we do that, and we will see a drop because of their share numbers. You see some of these things, but it shouldn't come to this level where in 2023 we're able to bring it down to 14 million, and then it went up by 300% in 2024. There are some lapses in the system that people must be held responsible for. And so I believe that, one, we should decentralize. Two, we should sanction those who, in one way or the other, check their responsibilities and refuse to do the needful, even though they've been asked to do these things.
But in all of this...
also check the slow response of control and accountant.
Exactly, I was coming to that. And to ask you,
response.
What role can the controller do in
some of these things are as a result of the way control and accountant general also manages some of the responses that are sent to, or requests of this nature that are sent to them. Remember, yesterday I kept asking him, I kept telling him, give us something that will work. An email we send with all the evidence. Email will not take 2-3 days to travel. Once you get it, you verify against the hard copies or the person's details in the system. If it is right, just go ahead and do it, because that is your mandate anyway. And so I'm happy the Controller Accountant General mentioned that they are going to improve upon their client service?
Because he said that sometimes some of these things are dropped in letters and they can lie at the district office for months and nobody will even open it and see the content.
So, like I said, the authorizers and the implementers of the authorization must all work together. They tell you, I have this friend. He said when he went to the teacher training school, and then when he was done, later in his life, he came to the university, and so he needed an upgrade. Once he was done with his university degree, he needed an upgrade. He sent all the correct documentation to the district. 6 months down the line, it was still lying in the district and hadn't even left. There are people who do that.
Okay.
So we need to collaborate and make sure such people are sanctioned. And also, on the same front, people from controller who also delay in addressing or handling things that clearly you can see that they have received must also be sanctioned.
But what about this matter of unearned salaries? Is it in any way linked to what has become known as ghost names? Because, for example, in the media review, the finance minister gave us a figure of over 500 million Ghana that the country is losing. The OSP is investigating some individuals on the public payroll linked to, ghost names and all of it. Is the unearned salary, can it partly be linked to
the unearned
ghost name that we can remove them from the...
The unearned salaries are in 2 or 3 categories. One, people who have vacated post. Once you vacated post and you are still being paid, you haven't earned that salary.
Right.
People who, for one reason or the other, have taken steady leave without pay and are being paid. That's also an unearned salary because you are not supposed to be paid. And then people who are dead and are not supposed to be paid. So it's about 3 or 4 categories of these people. And many a time, you see people who have vacated posts being paid. As for people who are dead and gone, yes, you see it, but it's not.
It's not so much.
It's not so much as people who have vacated posts or people.
Meaning they've left the system entirely.
They've left
it's not
the
a matter of being seconded to another institution.
And so you, the validator, who continues to validate someone who does not exist or who is not at post, you must be held liable.
Then there could be a cartel of a sort that may be benefiting from some of these things.
Whatever it is, the Director General of GS assured us that it is something they are going to work with controller to bring, some light, to throw some light on it and see how best they can address these issues. See, if you're a teacher in the districts, it's not that easy when you have issues, when you have problems. It's difficult. And we need to demystify this.
Okay.
The process must be so smooth that if, for one reason or the other, I upgrade myself and I send my documents, within, say, a stipulated time of a month maximum, I should be able to receive what is due me. If for one reason or the other, I'm taking off the payroll, but yet I'm at work, and the validator comes and says, this is what it is. Within a month or 2 maximum, I should be placed back on the payroll. This is not rocket science.
Well, I've just looked up. Some people have been interested in this conversation, so I've just got the text message because it ties in with the issue of unearned salaries and the issue with the payroll. And this person is saying that given that you had a key position, in this case you were Minister of State, from Deputy and then to Minister of State at the Finance Ministry in Akufo-Addo during the period when these payroll irregularities surged significantly, could you clarify what measures you or your ministry took at the time to identify and address these issues before the Auditor General's report was published? Why should the public trust your current outcry when you were part of the government that allowed this to happen?
That is where people get it wrong. There are processes, there are systems, there are agencies who work on these things. And that is the Controller Accountant General. It is not the politician who will go and work on these things.
Okay.
Otherwise, why do we have systems and processes in place? The Controller Accountant General.
They work under you. Those agencies are under the Ministry of Finance.
The Controller Accountant General is directly responsible for payroll. What government does is you make sure you provide the means to which they can effectively work. The means to effectively work is one, providing them with the requisite staff that they can work. The means to work efficiently is providing them with the resources that they can pay. But as to the day-to-day running of the place, it is the Controller and Accountant General. And so you ask yourself, did we give them, when they needed more staff, did government give them the opportunity to recruit? Yes, government did. When they needed monies to pay salaries, did government do that? Government did that. See, when we do this, we let people who are supposed to be responsible for mandates that they've been given, we leave them, or we just allow them to go scot-free and then place the burden on politicians. It is not about the politicians come, politicians go, but the system must work because there are agencies that are headed by non-politicians, and they are supposed to discharge their mandates. They are technical people, and they are supposed to discharge their mandates. Clearly, when you see from 2020, we saw, I mean, a drop in the payroll audits, the payroll irregularities. And then in 2024, it just went up.
So we can deal with it if we are committed to it.
Ask yourself, the numbers in 2020, I'm talking the number of teachers in 2020, whether the same numbers in 2024, clearly numbers may have gone up.
Right.
And that is the more reason why when numbers go up, you come up with measures that will help you to continually be effective and discharge your mandate. When you look in the PFM Act, every spending officer must be responsible for, I mean, whatever is placed in his or her hand. It's as simple as that.
So you wouldn't blame this on systemic failure?
It is not about systemic failure. It is about we, as Ghanaians, resolving to do the right thing. Okay. The person who decided to take the teacher's name off because the teacher failed to pay was the minister, the one who told him or her to do that.
No.
So let people who have been given responsibilities account for their for the authority or the mandate that they have been given. It is very, very easy for you to say it is the minister, but the person in that Controller and Accountant General's office, it is the head of controller who does what, who manages that person, and not the minister.
Okay. The other matter that always has become a regular feature, especially when you take the audited accounts of public universities or public tertiary institutions, you will see that universities sponsor lecturers for further studies abroad. Either they don't come back after their studies abroad, or when they come back, they are not even found on the university campus, and it's become a regular feature in this. And I see some appear before you are asking them, have you called them to come, and then there are all manner of reasons why the people are simply not available to honor the bond. How do we deal with this?
With these things, as Ghanaians, we ought to do the right thing. As a citizen, you have been given a privilege. And before you got that privilege, you signed a bond that should you complete, based on the privilege that has been given to you, should you complete, you're going to come back to serve a certain number of years, and then you leave. And so if you fail to do that, you have to at least pay for the monies that was spent on you. And then we realize that in certain instances, they come back, they do a few.
And then they leave.
Not just they're leaving, but the ministry, department, or agency consistently paying the person. Even when the person has left, the person has signed a bond. But that is why we have guarantors. And we have guarantors who sign or stand in for them in some of these instances, and we need to go after the guarantors.
In fact, there's one instance where in one of the reports...
Yeah, Dr. Kennedy Osei and another lady. Yes. Exactly.
And there's one that the person came back though.
Yeah.
He went to do something else, and yet he was still being paid by the university.
That is what I'm talking about, that you need to hold the guarantors responsible. I mean, it's like that. When somebody stands in for you, I mean, in a bail situation, and they can't find you, what do? They go after the one who stood in surety for you. So that is how but it is something that we as Ghanaians should look at. This is, I keep saying that if we do not change our attitude, it is not about this or that, but our personal attitude towards things. You have a bond with your agency. They have sponsored you, that you are supposed to come back and work for 2-3 years. You come and then you abscond. And I'm sure this one too, if you are not careful, they will place it on the minister who was there at that time, or the minister who is currently there. But that shouldn't be. That responsibility lies with you, the individual who decided to abide by the measures that they approved for you.
Oh, no, help clear this. I mean, I remember the Auditor General made an admission that he may have overstated the public debt. Now, it is the case, I'm reading that Parliament, the Public Accounts Committee, has cleared the Controller and Accountant General of claims it overstated the country's public debt of 138 million in the 2024 financial statement.
Let me correct this, that Public Accounts Committee cannot clear or validate anything that the Auditor General has done.
Right.
The auditors themselves will validate it and will give approval. They will give approval that, yes, they have cleared. And then that is when we accept it. One, it had to do with the overstatement of about 138 billion
right.
of debts. Ministry of Finance does or reports on central government debts and guaranteed state-owned enterprises debt. But when you look at the Controller and Accountant General whole of government accounts, it is all the SOEs included,
right.
inclusive of. So when they are preparing the whole of, it's like a bank preparing its financial statements, and so it takes account of every liability and every asset. So because government has stakes in the state-owned enterprises, even their unguaranteed loans, the Controller and Accountant General will include that in its financial statement.
Right.
And so when you look at what Ministry of Finance provided, Ministry of Finance provided central government debt, and then what Controller and Accountant General did was to also include the unguaranteed state-owned enterprises. But those ones don't sit on the books of Ministry of Finance because they are not debts that Ministry of Finance pays.
Right.
They are debts that these SOEs pay. But in coming up with a whole of government account, the whole of government's assets and liabilities, you need to show that. So that difference of 138 is as a result of the unguaranteed loans from these SOEs,
right.
which they furnished as the list. They furnished the list to the Public Accounts Committee, and they did say to the Auditor General. And the issue was this: it was a matter of timing.
All right.
You know, Controller and Accountant General is supposed to prepare the financial statements for the previous year and hand it over to the Auditor General by March of the ensuing year. So March 2025, they ought to do that. They did that. The Auditor General looked at it. And the Auditor General is also bound by time.
Right.
To also present its reports to Parliament by end of June 2025. So when they raised that query, before they provided the lists of the difference, the Auditor General was
already?
Yes, no, because of the time that the Auditor General was also supposed to present the reports to Parliament. They went ahead and did it and presented it so that they would not be late for this one.
Okay.
But then, what we cautioned both of them was this, that they should collaborate more and also act timeously, because you are all bounded by time. You are supposed to finish by March, and then Auditor General is supposed to finish by June. And so work together, go the extra mile, and make sure you address some of these things, looking at the fact that you are all bound by time.
Absolutely. And we've got 5 minutes to go. So under your leadership as chair of the Public Accounts Committee, is it going to be the usual name and shame before the cameras, or something more will be done to protect the purse and also help people accountable for their own indiscretions?
I don't think it's about naming and shaming. That is not it. It's about recovering revenues of government that, went into the wrong hands or went to the wrong place too. It's about making sure that all the monies that Parliament votes for the ministries, departments, and agencies are spent efficiently. So it is not just naming and shaming, no. But we want to make sure that we protect the public purse, protect what is given to every ministry, department, and agency, and make sure they use it efficiently and effectively. And so there are certain things that we ought to do. If you recall, for all the 3 or so procurement infractions, quickly we hand them over to the AGs.
The Attorney General's Department.
Because these are some of the measures that we want to do to quicken the recovery process.
And there's one that reference was made to the Attorney General to...
there are about 3 of them.
To hold the finance ministry. And I said the ministry cannot be one person. The ministry has hundreds. Why not narrow it down to a specific individual. As I was saying that hold the Ministry of Finance responsible for this.
They don't say hold the ministry. They said hold the Chief Director responsible.
Right.
So it was specific because the Chief Director is the Chief Spending Officer in every ministry. Yes. So we're trying as much as possible to help in the recovery process. Already, the audit service has been able to, they've been able to recover about 12.9 billion Ghana cedis, and there's a whole report on it that we'll also be looking at and sharing it with the people of Ghana.
Well,
so it's not about naming and shaming, but helping and to make sure that people do the right thing. In every system, in every situation, or every society, when the checks and balances are not there, people tend to go way off. When you look at the Western world, it's because the balances and the checks are there and they know they'll come after you. That is why most of the time they tend to do the right thing. And so that is what we also want to do and build on the work that the previous Public Accounts Committee did and make sure that we rake in more revenue and also prevent some of these infractions from even happening in the first place. It is not okay for you to see an infraction that keeps occurring
every time.
I mean, it is not okay. Meaning we are not learning, meaning we are not taking advantage of the improvement in the processes and technology. And so it is our hope that we will work and we will work along with everybody and make sure we all do the right thing. So it's not about naming and shaming.
And clearly you've not also been happy with sometimes the appearance of certain individuals, either they are late or they fail to show up. And for some of you, that is clear disrespect to the authority of Parliament and the committee. You
are the head of an entity. You are supposed to lead your people to a certain event, and then you choose not to come. And interestingly, you place the blame on someone who doesn't even know that this is what is supposed to happen. And two, once we take up responsibilities, we need to live and abide by those responsibilities. That is the only way, I mean, we can be held accountable properly. So if it is your ministry, the head of the entity must join you to come and make submissions, because some of the things, it goes beyond the technical people. It is the head that can take that decision. Yesterday, you heard the minister saying when there was an issue with the gift miss, the deputy minister mentioned that, yes, the Minister of Finance is working on it, and they hope that with ABCD, and they will be able to stem the tide. Some of this information will not be held by the technical people, but it will be held by the political heads.
Right.
And that is why we expect that they accompany their technical people to these hearings.
So now that you are off, when are you resuming? Because we thought you were going to go on for some time.
Yes, there are quite a number of ministries who couldn't come as a result of all that happened, especially may the souls of the departed rest with the Lord. The 8 persons who were caught up in this helicopter crash. Ministry of Health couldn't come because of that. Ministry of Health and then Ministry of Environment couldn't also come because of that. So in this situation, we try to accommodate everybody. And so we were hoping that we would conclude tomorrow. That was 27th. But because they couldn't come, we postponed it to 29th of, we are having another session on the 29th of, starting from the 29th of September, for another 2 weeks, where we will sit and continue with the reports that have been given to us.
Okay.
And so we have written to all of them, and we are hoping that they will appear.
Now, before you go, there are public interest questions. And then somebody is asking me to ask you your assessments of the economy in the last 8 months of the Mahama administration.
Is that also public accounts?
This is a public interest question.
Public interest question.
I mean, you've been in that office before.
We mentioned that when the MPP was leaving power, we had built the economy to a point where if they should pick it up and ride on the back of that, they will see some positives in the economy. And I think they listened. They picked up from where we had left off with the positives, and now we are seeing some sustained growth in the things. But that notwithstanding, the cedi is still wobbly.
Yeah, today is at 11 cedis to the dollar.
The cedi is still wobbly, and I think it should not be mere talk, but a lot of work should go into it with all the stakeholders to make sure we ground the cedi firmly. But on the whole, like I said, they took up the money from where we left off, where the economy was starting to rise, and they have, in a way, been able to sustain it. And
so 8 months on, you will say that the credits in the way the economy has been managed so far should be given to the foundation the MPP laid before leaving office?
It is not about credits. It's about how we can sustain our economy. And so you run with what has been left for you, the procedure has been left for you, and then you see how best you can also make it.
I ask because the finance minister says that they've not been reckless in spending. That's how come things are the way they are now.
It is not about not being reckless in spending, but there are still challenging issues. Contractors haven't been paid. There are quite a number of people who also need their payments and they haven't been paid. So, like I said, it's not about the talk, but let people see or feel the effects in the way things churn out in the economy. And so, like I said, they took up where we left off, where the economy has started seeing some signs of growth, and they have built on it, but still the city is wobbling, and so they should put all stakeholders together and make sure they come up with solutions that will help. And so that when you tell people the cedi is trading at, the dollar is trading at 10 cedis to $1, it is actually the case even when you go to Abuja.
Well, thank you so much for coming through, and then hopefully we'll monitor the progress of the Public Accounts Committee under your leadership, and we'll see if we can bring down infractions to the barest minimum in the 2025 audited accounts.
That is all we hope and pray for, but that will require a lot of attitudinal change, not just on the political heads, but every Ghanaian who has been given a responsibility. And if we all decide that in our own small way, the teacher in Enyinem or the nurse in Inuesi, wherever you are, if you are also going to do your bits, that little drops of water, once it comes together, we can make that impact that we are all looking for. It is not one person's responsibility, but the responsibility of all citizens. And once we accept it that way and we carry out that mandate individually and effectively, yes, we will see a huge drop in some.
Right, and so that's the Honorable Abena Asare, the Member of Parliament for Etiwa East. Etiwa East in the
almost said
Of course, because Akwatia is on my mind. Etiwa East in the Eastern region, and of course the Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. Let's take a quick break and return with more here on the pause.